Ever since I was a young kid, I have been exploring the world, going to other countries, and even seeing what my home country has to offer. For a couple of years now, I have been going hiking every summer, but this time is different. This is Project Estonia, a 2-week trip consisting of 16 locations, nearly 2,000 kilometers of driving, going along the edges of Estonia, starting from Tori, a small town near Pärnu, the summer capital, going all the way down and eventually up north by Lake Peipsi, along the coast until we almost reach Tallinn, where our trip ends. It's one of the biggest trips I have ever taken up, and I will be doing it all with one person, my mother. This is the story of how it went. After getting everything we would need for the trip from Pärnu, we set off to Tori Põrgu. Tori Põrgu or Tori Hell is a sandstone outcrop, or just a cliff, that is about 400 meters long and has an average height of 5 meters. It's right in the town of Tori, and the name comes from an old cave that was called the Gateway to Hell, as it went about 32 meters deep. Sadly, the cave collapsed over 100 years ago, but there are still some smaller caves you can enter, which are also pretty cool. Tori Põrgu is quite a beautiful landmark, as it is right next to the Pärnu river, and it also has lots of folklore around it. From there, we moved on to the next location, the Riisa Bog. Riisa Bog is a popular hiking trail that is about 5 kilometers long and is located in the Sooma National Park, which is a popular tourist destination in Estonia. This was a really interesting trail, as it transitioned from dry bog areas with trees to areas which were a bit clearer and more wet. At some point it even went through a forest, which almost felt like it was ancient, as there was lots of moss everywhere. Eventually we made it back to the bog, but this was a more wet area with almost no trees. There were lots of swamp lakes and it looked beautiful. But this wasn't the last bog, as we moved on to the Mukri Bog Trail from there. This was both an absolutely terrifying but also beautiful experience, as the bog itself was gorgeous, but in order to see the beauty, you had to go up an 18-meter high watchtower, and I hate heights, so honestly it wasn't the best feeling in the world. To be honest though, it was worth it. Despite the view being beautiful, we had to start the long drive to our camping spot, as then we would be closer to our next spot. After waking up and eating, we set off to one of my most anticipated locations on this trip, the Sangaste Castle. The castle took some inspiration from the famous Windsor Castle in England, and it sure does look like an English castle. It has a lot of history behind it, but I will talk about that some other time. It looks awesome from the outside with the tower and the red brick that it's built from, and I'm quite surprised that they have managed to keep it in such good condition. The inside is even better. There is a big ballroom which is just breathtaking, a dark basement with not much to look at, and also another floor, where there's also hotel rooms, as this castle can even be used for weddings and a hotel. From the beautiful castle, we've moved to the even lower parts of Estonia, until we made it to the Tilleoru hiking trail. It's a quiet trail with no people walking on it but us, and it felt quite magical. The forest looked beautiful, but there are sadly signs of it dying. You see, in lots of forests, spruce trees look like this. This is caused by an insect called the bark beetle, which literally eats the trees dry and leaves them to die. It's truly sad to see so many forests doomed because of this bug, and this is probably one of them. After this part of the trail though, things got a little bit tricky. The trail became overgrown and some areas were even dangerous as they were collapsing or the supports were broken. It was quite the experience, but being honest, the trail should probably be fixed and taken care of. The last location of the day was Taevaskoda. It's one of my favorite locations in Estonia, and we couldn't have come here at a better time, as it had just rained. I think I will stay quiet for this one, and just let the visuals speak for themselves. This is easily my favorite nature spot in Estonia, and this here is why. The massive sandstone walls that always make me speechless, the beautiful river flowing right past, and the fact that the whole area just feels so wild. It was so nice, until it wasn't. Happy! After the chaos had died down, it was late and we decided to camp nearby. On this day, we really didn't get very far. By that I mean we only made it to one location, the Järvselja Primeval Forest. It was in the middle of nowhere in the settlement of Järvselja, where there were just houses and no shops at all. The beginning of the trek wasn't very promising. It was not maintained well and the wooden trail there was even broken. But this was just the start, and the actual forest itself was an awesome experience. Now, the trail actually doesn't go through the forest, because this 19-hectare piece of land has a very strict rule that basically says, don't mess with nature. What I mean by this is that no trails can be made in it, and it's a piece of forest where no tree can be chopped down. In short, it's a forest where it's all up to nature. All trees bring new life to the forest, everything is so green, and really this part of the trail was just amazing. But if you thought it wouldn't get worse in the beginning, this part of the trail was actually not done. So we had to walk in mud for a short time because there were men still placing down wooden planks for the trail. In the end, it was quite an interesting trail and experience. The next day was yet another one I had been waiting for, as we started with one more castle, the Alatskivi Castle. Remember how I said that Sangaste was beautiful? Well, once we made it to this castle, I realized that the Sangaste Castle was not even that awesome. Right off the bat, it was obvious this castle had a lot more funding put into it. It looks like it's straight from a Disney movie. The outside area looks so well kept, and it was exactly the same inside. It was like Sangaste in the sense that it had a lot of rooms. To be honest, it's so gorgeous, I might just let the clips roll. After such an awesome experience, we went to yet another primeval forest, the Poruni Forest. This was an interesting one, as it was right next to the border between Estonia and Russia, and also because the road leading to the trail was still being built and was incomplete. I really know how to choose locations. Despite that, it was a nice trail, as there was a river flowing right next to it with lots of tall ferns, showing that this forest is truly old. It was also really quiet, almost too quiet. It made me really nervous, as us humans really aren't used to silence these days, but I still tried enjoying the hike. In the middle of the hike, this small river somehow expands to be triple its size and still keeps going right along the trail. This part of the trail also went through quite some tall ferns, which made the forest feel like a jungle. The trail also has lots of history behind it, with soldiers actually fighting in trenches here in World War II. There are still signs of this, as the trenches remain. We sadly didn't finish the trail because I was starting to get tired, so we returned. And so our first week ended. We started the second week with the 2-hour drive to our first location, the Äntu Blue Lake, the bluest lake in Estonia. The lake water is so clear, it's easy to see the bottom and the ecosystem there. We decided to take out our paddleboard here, as that way it would be much more visible how beautiful this lake is. I decided to take my camera with me, as then I could really show how clear the water is. It was quite an experience, as it was my first time on a paddleboard. From here we continued to the coast of Estonia, to Valaste Waterfall. This waterfall is on a 30-meter tall cliff, making it the highest in Estonia. The cliff itself has all these beautiful colors, showing different layers of the earth that formed in the span of 400 million years. It's truly a remarkable sight, though it would be even better if there wasn't a forest growing right by the coastline, as these tall cliffs go on for 23 kilometers, with the tallest part being 55 meters tall. When we came here, we were lucky to see that there was actually water running off the cliff, as in dry seasons it's usually, well, dry. It made this experience really beautiful. After this, we didn't make it anywhere else though, so we went to a campsite and had some rest. We started the second day off with yet another biggest thing in Estonia, the Ehalkivi. It's a massive rock by the sea, meaning the walk there was a bit muddy, though I think it was worth it. The Ehalkivi is nearly 8 meters tall and has a circumference close to 50 meters, making it, as I said, the biggest rock in Estonia, but also one of the biggest in Northern Europe. Being next to this thing made me feel tiny, and it made me realize that other rocks I've seen are nowhere near to being so huge. It is difficult to understand its size through a camera, but it is awesome to see with your own eye. Before going to the next location, I want to point out that this area of Estonia overall is really interesting. Driving around we saw lots of abandoned buildings which looked beautiful in their own way, and we even went through a small town with a massive factory. So I really like this part of our small country. After the big rock though, we moved on to yet another area that's next to the sea. The Toolse Fortress. This fortress is about 650 to 700 years old, as the exact age is unknown. It's said to have been built to protect the harbour that was once here, but now it stands mostly destroyed, due to all the wars it's been through. I've been to a lot of fortress ruins, and these did not disappoint. Most of the ruins still standing are held up with metal rods, making it a bit sketchy to walk around, but also it felt really cool. For the last location of today, we went to the Vihula Manor Windmill. There's not much special about it, but what makes it special is that it's one of the only windmills they have seen in good shape, as lots of them are in ruins. That said, it's quite a pretty windmill. With this, we finished yet another successful day. Since we skipped some spots we were supposed to go to, we only had 2 more places to go, with both being hiking trails. We started with the Viru Bog Trail, and right off the bat we saw a problem. There were tons of people at this hiking trail. I have never seen so many cars at the hike before, but it's no wonder as it's quite close to Tallinn, the capital of Estonia. The hike itself was quite interesting, as this swamp has actually been mined for its minerals before, meaning a part of the bog was dried up, but now people are trying to revive this dried bog again. Sadly, it hasn't been successful, and it probably will never be recovered. The healthy part of the bog was also interesting though. This bog has lots of lakes, showing that it's a really wet bog. But there were also lots of trees here, though those two don't mix too well. I'd say this is my favorite bog trail in Estonia, as it has a lot to look at. A pretty forest around it, a beautiful bog, and even remnants of what us humans have done to this place in the past. From here we moved on to the last location of our long trip, and honestly, it was the best of them all. This is the Jussi Nature Trail, and I think it's a hidden gem. This trail started off with a moor, which kind of looks like the hills of a tundra, with almost no trees and only flowers growing. But this didn't form naturally. Over the course of 100 years, this 150-hectare piece of land has been deforested, been through wildfires and even bombed in Soviet times, with bomb holes still being visible today, some of them being pretty big. All this has somehow made it a good environment for flowers though, and it makes it feel out of this world. This isn't all though, as this area also has a beautiful forest, 6 lakes that you can hike around, and even a swamp area. It all makes this the perfect hiking trail, as it has everything. The hills were my favorite part though, especially when we made it back from the forest right as the sun was setting. Also, this place is used as a military training ground, and the road leading to it doesn't even exist on Google Maps. Like I said, this place is a hidden gem. But with that, it was time to go home. In the end, I had an amazing trip. We got to see the beautiful nature of Estonia and the beautiful structures that have been built here hundreds of years ago. And despite looking at the footage I took with my mom's old and kind of crappy camera, thinking this looks horrible, I'm still happy I got to film it all. Thanks to everyone for watching. I'll see you next time.